Hi, it's Mark Welsh, currently Vice Commodore here at Sandringham Yacht Club, and welcome to our next in the series of video interviews. And today I have the pleasure of being joined by our life member, Lowa Paszko. Hi, Lowa.
Morning.
Well, Lowa, quite the remarkable history here at Sandringham. Member since 1992, you know, that's over 30 years.
Yes, I was here before then.
And before then?
In the Over the Beach, yes.
Life membership in 2022, Club Person of the Year, 2012-13.
Mm-hmm.
General Committee member, I think 6 years on General Committee,
Yep.
as well as, I don't know how long it's been on Sale Committee now, a long time.
Over 20.
Over 20 years. Club Handicapper, Measurer,
Yes.
Equipment Auditor,
Yes.
Club Champion 8 times,
Mm-hmm.
Mentor, Skipper, the list goes on. So if we start thinking back, Lowa, when you first started sailing and you first came to the club, what's your earliest memories?
Well, I didn't start sailing until I was about in my late 30s, 40s, because I just never had the opportunity. I used to do a bit of gliding when I was a student, so that gave me a bit of idea of the weather and how things work. But Elizabeth wanted to get the kids into sailing. So we bought a little fairy penguin, a 10-foot thingy that my brother-in-law had. Right? And we tried to sail on that. It was just too small. We spent more time in the water than out of the water. So that's okay, that's too small. So we got a pacer, bigger.
Moving up.
And we joined the Hampton Yacht Club. Okay, so we did a bit of work up there. And then the kids got old enough to start to learn to sail. So we looked around, went to Brighton, wasn't our scene, joined Sandringham, and that was it. So that's how we started. I started then to go on the rubber ducks, on the Endeavour. I was the one firing the shotgun.
The old shotgun.
The two-barrel shotgun.
Yep.
It was an issue when you had to fire 3 times.
Yeah, quickly get that extra canvas.
Get the extra one, yes. So on the rubber ducks, I spent some time with Hoffy. Remember
Hoffy?
Yeah, he was.
Yes, he was another icon of the club.
Correct, yes. The kids didn't really take on to the sailing part, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being on the water. Okay. So then we decided, all right, what do we do next? Elizabeth said, let's get a little cruising boat so we can go cruising on the bay.
Sounds very pleasant.
Very pleasant. So we looked at what to get, and this Rhiannon Dragon 925 was for sale, the right price, so we got it, and there was a pen available, which was just a year old. That stage the Marina was just 1 year old.
Right.
So I was able to take over the lease on that pen, which was a 10-year lease for the right price. So we bought the Rhiannon Dragon 925, but we never went cruising.
Straight into racing.
Straight into racing. Starting Wednesdays and then Saturdays, and that was it.
Well, Rhiannon's certainly been a remarkable boat around the club, very successful, very regular participant in all racing, as you say. So just focus a little bit on Rhiannon. Tell me a little bit about the history. So Jarkin 925.
Jarkin 925, it was designed by John King out of Sydney and built by Kenga Birtles.
Kenga Birtles, there's a name.
That's a name for it, yes. He's done a lot of sailing around Australia, very well-known sailor. Single-handed, I think he's the fastest single-hander around Australia.
Right.
I think he's done lots of cross-Tasman crossings and I think 16 Sydney to Hobart. So he built that boat in '84 to do a Sydney to Hobart.
That's impressive.
Yeah, 6'6" on board, I think. And he broke the mast. There was a bad year, so he broke the mast. It was called Swagman at that stage. And then he went and did again in '85. It came fourth in his division. So he did very well.
Very well.
After that, the boat, I think, went up to Queensland. They put a wheel on it, then to Tassie, and then to Geelong, and that's where I got it from in '94. We have 2 more Jarkin 925s in the club, the Sundowner and Salt Shaker. We used to have Saga 70 here too with Peter Olnett. And I did an ocean race with him on that one, which was quite interesting. So yeah, so the boat is very solid, very strong. and it goes anywhere. And especially when it starts to blow 20 knots plus,
And that's when the results come through.
that's when the results come through. So sit back and relax.
Terrific stuff. It's good seeing her out there all the time. So thinking back to 30 years or over 30 years around Sandringham Yacht Club, Lowa, what are some of the key changes that I guess you've seen to the club in that time?
Well, when I started, I think the club was in a financially poor state, low membership. We used to have trouble getting the quorum for the AGM at
Really?
that stage. Yes.
Wow.
Used to ring people around, can you come over? Can you come over? Because we don't have the AGM. But I think the general committee got their act together and got some good people on it and really got into the FMP1, FMP2, and got the club back on its feet. And this is, with new clubhouse now, it's a great club.
So
Probably
one of the key
best on the
changes
base.
you've seen with this wonderful clubhouse. Yeah.
Marina,
Yeah.
the hard stand, shovel lift, club, great changes.
So what about the some of the changes we saw with this new clubhouse is the start tower and the improvements of the start tower?
Yes, well, we had, in the old clubhouse, we had a tower which was really all manual, clocks that you had to reset every time you raced, and then you had to put flags up and turn the boards around and so on. It was being dilapidated. Tim Little decided to refurbish it. So he got a working bee and we painted and fixed it up. And at that stage, we decided to update the start system to a more automatic.
Yeah.
So I wrote a functional spec for it based on the racing rules of sailing and the sailing instructions.
Right.
And we got Rabbit, who was sails on Magic, Robert Eason.
Was Phil.
He was the electrician, and he put me on to a guy called Charlie out of Seeking Controls, and we built a panel, which is fully automatic, with a little LED screen on it. So you could set it manual, automatic, off, press a button, off she goes. And that was a good system, PLC based. And when the new tower came up, the new building, we carried that over, but rather than having PLC based, it was a Windows based computer, because that's the time when the computers were coming in. And also, rather than having individual lights and so on, we decided to go with an LED screen. Now again, that was something new at that stage because the LED screens were just coming in. Anyway, so we got the one up here, installed it. One of the club members did the programming for it, again, on the same basis. And I think this is about the only one that I know of on the Bay, maybe in Australia, that has a fully automatic system like that.
It's absolutely terrific, and all of our racing on Wednesdays, Thursdays, etc. Sees the benefit of the work that
Sundays,
you and others did
yes,
in building that type of system, and it's just it's wonderful.
Yeah, so it's a good system and it works well. You press a button, automatically off she goes.
I know that the Tower ladies love it. So so well done. Thank you for that. So if you think now, Lowa, around those sort of changes and what you've seen, and you now look into that sort of future direction of either the club or sailing in particular, what sort of excites you around what you're seeing in that regard?
I think the training programs and the J70s is the way to go. We need to attract and retain young members. And the J70s hopefully will do that. And hopefully we'll get crews coming from them onto the keelboats. Because the biggest issue we have at the moment is the lack of crews. We have the boats, beautiful new boats coming into the club, but just cannot get the crew. And that's the biggest issue that I see coming up.
Yeah, and then look, the J70 program, I think as we turn and look out the window here, you'll see the J70s out there, and we're certainly hopeful that will be a popular thing for attracting new crew members and helping us boat owners to actually get out there and race each week.
Let's hope so, yeah.
Absolutely. So look, so a couple of the things, back Australian Sailing a few years ago recognised your contributions into the world and awarded you the Services to Yachting Award, is that right?
Yes.
What are the other moments that make you proud in terms of what you've achieved, either for the club or in boating in general?
Well, I think it's for the club. I think just being awarded the life membership was a great honour to me. I mean,
well deserved.
Unexpected, but it is a great honour.
That's, as I said, absolutely pleasure for us to award you that, Lowa. And one of the duties that you do as club handicapper, I'm sure you get lots of feedback from our owners and participants around their performance handicap or their pursuit start time and so forth. I guess if you think about those events, what's the advice that, as club handicapper, you would give them to maximise their results?
Well, when people come to me and say, my handicap is wrong, or this is, this is no good, and I just say, you just have to sail better. And that's the end of it. Sail better, yes.
Wise words from the club handicapper there. So if we look at that performance handicapping system, and I know you've got quite the history there, and I think folks would like to see perhaps a little bit of that history. How did that performance handicapping system evolve, and just share your involvement with it too?
It started probably more than 50 years ago now with Gogs Manning, one of the old club members. He had a boat called Rapid Transit at one stage.
Yeah.
The young
Lula guy
88.
as well, I think.
Sorry?
Lula guy before that.
Lula guy before that, yes. Rapid Transit is now Young Bears.
Young Bears.
Yeah. Anyway, so he was a pilot and he had a lot of free time in between the flights, sitting at the airports waiting. So he analyzed all the results from the club here and around the bay. And he came up with this handicapping system, which then became the YV, or
VYC, I think.
VYC initially, yes, then YV handicap system. Yeah. And he refined it to a stage where it was working very well, but he was only doing it manually. He had lots of information, graphs, and every boat had a performance graph plotted on it. And the more it moved up and down, the worse its performance was, obviously, because it couldn't keep the handicap.
Right.
And some were pretty straight, which means they were consistently good. Yeah. When he was starting to get sort of to the stage of retirement, I got involved with the handicapping. At that stage, Top Yacht was being developed by Rod McCubbin.
Right.
And Top Yacht is the current system we use for race management and for timing and scoring and so on. Rod McCubbin did a lot of work at this club, developing it. And when I took it over from Gogs, which is more than 25 years ago now, we've continued to develop it with Rod McCubbin and John Duffin to what it is now, from being average over 8 races to being just taking the last race, 2/3 of the roster plus the new BCH, average that, and off we go.
There you go, folks. That's the secret of performance handicapping system right there.
Yeah. So it's a simple system, and it works well. And we use it for Wednesdays now too.
So fair to say that it's a lot more kind of mathematical based than perhaps when Gogs was doing his old handwritten graphs.
Correct, and it's fully automated. It's fully computer generated. So the times go in, the result come out, the new handicap comes out. Right. End of story. There's no discussion about it.
So apart from the performance handicapping system, obviously there's the rating systems as well that you administer, and I know that you're heavily involved with administering the AMS system. Can you tell me a little bit about the evolution of that system, as well as the other rating systems that we have here at the club and that are popular, both from probably yourself and your involvement in those, but also from the participants' point of view of, how can people, how do they get involved in rating systems?
Well, again, around late 25 years ago now, the IMS, which is the National Measurement System, was dying because it was too complicated and you had to scan the boat to get a HAL file for it, and then the results were based on the weather conditions and so on. So it just got too difficult and too hard to get ratings for it. IOR died because of the type forming, and the channel system was starting to come in, but which is from out of UK. And what we found that we did some measurements and calculated the ratings for the boats, and found that 3 boats would win every race. One of the 3 boats would be just a winner. So we were not happy with the way it operated. So a decision was made by the clubs on the bay and by BYC at that stage to produce our own handicap, our own rating system, I should say. John Chatham was the driver behind that. Peter Brazier from Hobson's was the actual mathematician. So what we did was we got a thing called a Shell formula, which is basically sail area over displacement. More sail area, the faster you go. Heavy boat, slower it goes. length.
That's the basis of it.
That's the basis of it. And he developed that on the basis of measurement of I think we had about a couple hundred boats on the bay that we measured and put information in. He came up with this AMS system, which got implemented. One of the critical things in that was that all the boats had to be weighed to give it true weight, because before that you just didn't know what the boat weighs, and that affects the performance tremendously.
And is that weighing? Is that an impediment to people?
No, it's not, because in Victoria here we organize a weighing day once a year, weigh up to 20 boats, and the cost is split, very low cost for the owners, which is different to other states where they weigh one or two at a time, but then you get a crane and the people and pay for it. It costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to weigh a boat. Here, we used to do it, $150 initially, then we're still under 300.
Yeah.
So it's a very economical way, and you have to do it for both IRC, AMS, and for ORC too.
ORC as well.
So you have to weigh the boat. And it became the most popular one in Victoria, and then also went into Australia, into South Australia, Tasmania, West Australia, got into Hong Kong for a while,
Right.
Still there in Hong Kong as SMS. So it became a very popular system. A few years later, the channel system was reinvented as the IRC, International Rural Club, and it was being pushed by Australian Sailing. And 5 or 6 years ago, the ORC came along, which is the old IMS or IOR rebadged.
Right.
And rebadged in such a form that you have an ORC club, which is a single figure, self-measured supposedly system, and then you have a fully measured inclined ORCI, which is the international.
The top end.
The top end. More expensive, but also gives you much more information and gives you stability for the boat. So at this stage in Australia, there are 3 main systems: ORC,
ORC,
IRC, and AMS.
So for anyone that's looking to get involved, perhaps they have their boat, they're doing, say, a Wednesday racing, and they're keen to get into the measurement rating systems, I guess your advice is just have a chat to yourself. And
Have a chat to myself. We'll go and measure the boat, measure the sails, measure the rig and the boat, and you can get an AMS or an ORC club rating from that, and you can rate against the other boats. The beauty of a rating system is that you can't complain about the performance. It is what it is. The best sailing is, to me, is one design. HLs, J24s, the J70s, right? That's just kill. And the best sailors do that. I sail usually against Intrusion, Locarina, top sailor on the bay.
State champion more times than I think.
Dozens of times probably. If I can get close to him, I'm doing well.
Good benchmark.
Good benchmark, but he gets away from me usually on a rating system. So yes, if you want to get into rating systems, I think you should, and it's an easy way. It's not expensive. We, as measures on the bay, don't charge for time.
Right. That's very generous of you.
Which is different to Sydney again, which just gets very expensive over there. And it doesn't take that much effort and that much time to get a rating. And then you can see how good you are.
And I guess it comes back to the same advice on performance handicap. If you want to do well, sail better.
Sail better. Clean your boat, get a good crew, get good sails, then you go faster. But the handicap will catch up with you.
Right. So look, Lowa, with the time that you have administering the AMS system, club measurer, club handicapper, and so forth, you put a lot of time in, and that's I think on behalf of all of our members here, we really thank you for all your time. Just one last question I wanted to ask you: any advice for an incoming Commodore for Sandringham Yacht Club you wanted to pass on?
Well, I wouldn't presume to pass any advice, but the biggest issue we have at the club at the moment is we have lots of good boats waiting for the crew. So the whole thing is, how can we get the crew, the people to crew on our boats? Where do we get them from? How do we train them? J70s may help, but it's only partial solution. So getting people on the boats crewing is the
paramount.
Is number one priority.
Terrific stuff. Well, look, again, Lowa, thanks very much for your time today.
You're welcome.
It's been great chatting with you. I'm sure we'll see you around the club. And maybe let's go and set a course for today's racing, hey?
Exactly. Okay.
Thanks very
Mario.
much.